Welcome to another episode of Film Seizure at the Movies. I'm Geoff Arbuckle, co-host of the weekly podcast Film Seizure and the host of Monster Mondays, both of which you can find at filmseizure.com. This week, I'm joined by my Film Seizure co-hosts, Jason Oliver and Chuck Moore, as we discuss, with as few spoilers as possible, what's likely to be remembered, at least by one of us, as the most shockingly brutal film released by a major studio in 2021, Halloween Kills. Now, while I have much to say about how psychologically and physically brutal I found this film to be, let's back things up to 2018 when Jason and I reviewed David Gordon Green's refresh of the Halloween franchise. So, Jason, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
Chuck, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. So, Jason, let's talk for a couple minutes on our take on that film, because we liked it quite a bit, and there were a few things that really kind of stuck out. What are some of the things that stick out to you as far as that 2018 one?
Well, I think it's my favorite sequel of all the sequels.
I think that's fair. I think that's really fair to say. I'm not going, when we talk about like all of these series, I'm not going to count the Halloween 3. Because that's a different movie. I'm not going to worry about counting that and how I feel about it. But no, I basically agreed with you. I think that the 2018 was probably the best, if not one of the better sequels in the series.
Yeah, it's not without its problems. It still plays a little bit with that convenience of plotting for things to happen, right? But I like the symmetry of it. I like the callbacks. I like kind of like the Jamie Lee's character kind of becoming the hunter, right? Mm-hmm. That whole last act I really enjoy quite a bit with kind of flipping the script on who's the hunter here and who's the prey, right? I like a lot about that movie. It's we watched it again last night before we watched Kills, and it holds up really well. I've seen it a few times now. It feels like a Halloween movie. Mm-hmm. It feels like a worthy continuation of the story, albeit 40 years later.
Yeah, if nothing else, it's a worthy update to the original.
And what I found interesting is like some of the stuff I didn't like about 2018. I feel like 2021 Halloween Kills kind of plugs those holes for me. So there were things that I really like about Halloween Kills that I think make me like 2018 even more.
Okay. Chuck, what you were not part of our show when we did Halloween and Halloween for Halloween, which I think we even released it on Halloween.
Say Halloween again.
Halloween. So, Chuck, how did you feel about Halloween?
Halloween 2018, I really liked it. Watched it again last night, and it holds up. As Jason said, a lot of the things we were mentioning were like good throwbacks to the first, like nice little homage moments in that film. And I like that it sets up well for Kills, too. I think a lot of information that is given or not given that certain characters have make Kills a better movie as well.
Okay.
So, but I like 2018 a lot, since that's what you asked me.
Yeah. No, and I never quite understood the kind of pedantic pushback that a lot of people had for the 2018 movie. I think it's just people decided they didn't want to like it and just found any reason to nitpick it to death. It would be shocking that anybody thinks that movie is not as good as 5 and 6.
Any of them, really.
I would say 4 gets a little bit of a nostalgic pass for me on a lot of things, but I recognize it's not very good.
I think once you put behind you 1978, that none of the Halloween films will likely ever approach its greatness, and whatever you think about it, however good you think it is,
Right.
I don't think any sequel will ever make it there. And I think a lot of people were expecting 2018 to carry on the torch in a more meaningful way than it did, while it was still a good film.
Yeah.
Like it can't approach those heights, I think.
I think my problem is, what do people expect from a sequel nowadays? You obviously, had this stretch of sequels in the 80s and 90s that were just not very good, but still kind of enjoyable in their own way, right? H2O came around, and I kind of liked that movie when it came out, but to me, that movie is kind of gutless, if you will. It's very sanitized. It feels
it's very late 90s horror.
It feels like if they made a CW television series of Halloween, right?
Sure.
And then Resurrections is just terrible. I mean, it really, there was just these cash grabs is what it turned into. It kind of turned into the Friday the 13th series, right? Where it was just kind of like, we got to figure out ways for Michael Myers to kill people.
Right.
And then the Rob Zombie movies, of course, kind of tried to, I think, reimagine things. And for as much as I don't like those movies, there's a lot of reasons why I don't like those movies. They did try to do something new instead of just rehashing the old storyline, right? In a way,
right.
So I respect it for that.
It's at least trying something,
But to me, 2018 was the first sequel I felt like it actually tried to be, maybe with the exception of Halloween 2, right? Where it tried to actually be, somewhat faithful stylistically and tonally, and actually tried to put you in the days and life of some of these characters. That's what I really like about David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's writing, and the other guy, I don't want to leave him out, but I can't remember his name. Is that
Scott Teams?
They write really interesting character vignettes, right? They kind of help you feel something or care about the fodder, right? Because in all these slasher films, you have these characters who are just kind of there to die, right? And these movies are no different, but I like the way they're written because they're written as almost like these character stories within the movie, and you get to know them really quickly, and you get to like them really quickly, and then unfortunately they have to die, and you feel that pain of that a little bit more than you would if they were just a stranger, right? So that's part of what I really liked about 2018. And that's also the things that I really liked about Kills it's there too, which we'll talk about, I think.
Yeah. So I think this is a great segue because everything you just mentioned, I think, is just garbage in this movie. I think it is the exact opposite of what Halloween 2018 did. But we'll get there. So in this movie, basically, without giving away too many spoilers, basically we know a lot of what's going on from the trailer. Like, the fire department showed up to rescue, to essentially, unbeknownst to them, rescue Michael Myers from the trap that he was in. And we also, while we are seeing him basically on a slow, steady march to the one thing we didn't see in the 2018 movie, which is the Myers residence, we also are given some kind of some backstory of things that are that go back to that night in 1978. We saw how he was apprehended. We saw how other characters were affected by him, which is really probably, if there is such a thing as a plot in this movie, that's probably it. It's how is this town living with this legacy?
I think we should get it out here quickly that Geoff didn't care for this movie. Chuck and I mostly did like it. I think it feels very much like a movie without a plot. I agree with that wholeheartedly. There's
You said
not
the
a
word
lot there,
vignettes, and I was like, yeah, it's a movie of vignettes.
but it also takes place over about an hour and a half. It's almost in real time, essentially. It's a movie about chaos in a lot of ways, and I don't know that you can. I feel like if you're going to inject plot into that, I don't know how you would do that.
Well,
I mean, maybe
yeah.
you might argue this isn't a story worth telling, but it's the 12th fucking Halloween movie, and to me, it's going to be a fine bridge to get us to maybe the last Halloween movie, right?
Sure. I mean, yeah, you're right. I don't think it's going to be the last Halloween movie, but no, you're right. It is a bridge movie, and part of that is okay, except that this includes stuff that I wish it was about 15 minutes shorter.
Yeah, it could have been.
Because while I absolutely there's this entire subplot with a second guy that survived the escape that Michael had in the last movie. I like some of what they are trying to do with that. I feel like it was a little ham-fisted.
Are you talking about Lonnie?
Well, I'm talking about like I'm talking about Tommy leading a angry mob of the entire town.
Oh yeah, so yeah. I mean,
I like the Lonnie stuff. To be honest with you, that was some of my favorite stuff. Was with him, his son, which was the boyfriend from the last movie.
Yeah.
I love the fact that the boyfriend went on a manhunt, still wearing his Bonnie and Clyde dress.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
That cracked me up. That stuff I thought was very heartfelt. There were other things that I felt like it's like, why are we going away from this over here?
It's interesting because I like the town fighting back, but I do agree it gets ham-fisted. Like the chanting of "Evil Dies Tonight" is a big.
There were times I thought they were actually chanting USA, and I'm not kidding you.
I'm literally while we were watching it started chanting USA.
Yeah, I literally thought they were chanting USA at one point.
I did find that pretty goofy.
Yeah, and this kind of lends to my general feel on this. I didn't have a single moment of fun watching this movie.
Oh, see, I don't know. I don't understand that.
I don't either, honestly.
I really don't. I mean,
this is like watching the Rob Zombie ones. It's the black couple that we're introduced to in the early part of the movie. They were one. I think the black woman was stereotypical on the brink of being racist. I feel like they didn't deserve what happened to them.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. But the thing is, though, it's like a slasher movie can be fun when people who don't deserve to die. Like we see it all the time in Friday the 13th movie, or pick a Halloween movie, and we see that. However, there is still a layer of, and maybe, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe it was some of the censorship of those 80s movies that remove you from the visceral element of watching somebody getting their fucking head clubbed in, like beat for beat, literally. That's no pun intended. It's like I hated almost every person in this movie because I felt like I was being forced. We just recently talked about, for a future episode, Clockwork Orange. I felt like Alex strapped to that chair watching terrible things happen with a good soundtrack. And it's like it was like watching a Rob Zombie movie, and a Rob Zombie movie is a Rob Zombie movie. This is supposed to be a Halloween movie, and I saw no line between those two.
Well, for me, I thought the movie, one, you said it could be 15 minutes shorter. While I agree with that, I watched it twice last night, and it blew by both times. So for me,
it was not. It didn't feel long, I should say. I was just saying that there were some things that should be trimmed out.
absolutely, I totally agree, and I think Jason's going to make a point about that later. But for me, and again, I'm rehashing something Jason said. Those little vignettes with those characters that I don't want to give away what's so great about those little scenes. I love them. They were fun. They were almost lighthearted. And then you're like, oh, I really like these people. Oh my God, they just got killed. To the black couple, two of the best jokes in the whole movie were unfortunately kind of at their expense, but I didn't find them like degrading in any way.
There is a particular line that I found to be not great for the woman of that couple. And I won't talk about it here, but yeah, it's anyway.
But yeah, there is that half of the film, and my one, I guess, negative, well, there's probably more than one negative, but something that's kind of a larger negative for me was not that there was a group that was riled up, but what they did and how they did it and how it was handled in the film. I was like, oh, that could have gone a lot better and been a lot more interesting than it is.
It turned into the crazies.
Right. And I get it. I know exactly why it happened. And I don't think that DGG was aiming the wrong way. Like, I think that is something that should happen. I just think the way, you know what I mean?
No. Like I said, I don't hate that concept. I hated the way that it was done and how it cut into the real plot of what was going on, which was trying to find the actual guy. They kept going back to this. Like, seriously, it was like watching people infected with the rage virus from 28 Days Later, chasing this poor son of a bitch that
they took the whole idea of misinformation, and this is a mirror of our society, right? In a very large way, and maybe ham-fisted, like both of you said. The idea of having the wrong information leads to some really shitty consequences.
Right.
And there's many misinformed people in this movie, and the way that they act with that bad info is really, really bad, but it's also really something we see all the time.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and I will say that while I think there is one character who feels like he takes it to heart that he fucked up. He even says so. But what's he do? 5 minutes later, does it again. And what does it cost? Pretty much the entire town. It's like no spoilers to be given, but it is it's like, well, why did you say that he understood what he did wrong if he's just going to make that same mistake again?
Yeah, that's unfortunate, because without you saying it, and we don't want to say it, I don't know exactly what you're talking about, so I can't really respond. But there are definitely moments in this movie that are like that. Yeah. I'll just say that. But I think the fun for me, while not always fun, and it was brutal, which sometimes I kind of like brutalness in film, this one was fun enough for me that didn't impact me negatively. I've watched plenty of movies where I'm not having a good time. Like, sure. I think this is what happened with you. Probably you're just not enjoying it, and that brutalness just makes it worse. I don't want to speak for you.
No, you're exactly right. Because one of the things that I will say, and I know, Jason, you probably got a point, like Chuck said, coming here, but there is a brutalness to the Michael Myers character. He is the unfettered rage and lack of morality if it goes unchecked or goes unsolved. However, I was perfectly fine not really always seeing the consequence of that, knowing that he did something really bad to that guy over there, but actually seeing it play out, it didn't sit well with me.
Yeah, there were people in our group, and then Jason, I'll pass it off to you. Sorry. There were people in the group that we watched it with last night that liked 2018 a lot better. And there's a few that had never seen it that were like, I liked all the off-screen stuff. Mm-hmm. I liked knowing that someone's getting killed around the corner and not having to watch it. Right. And kills was a lot harder for them because those moments were shown. I think they both build suspense in a different way, and I was okay with both of them. But we're 80s kids. We at least grew up with off-screen shit happening all the time. And I like it. But I also sometimes like being shocked.
Sure.
And being like put in that uncomfortable seat.
Yeah, I mean, and I will say that even though I didn't much care for this, I don't think you guys are absolutely bonkers nuts for liking it. Yeah, it just wasn't what I wanted. And,
right.
You know, and it bummed me out harder because I expected it to be more like 2018, and it just didn't land for me. And it made me dislike it even more because it's like, oh, you know, it's like, I hate to see that happen. Yeah, it's like, because I was so disappointed and so deflated by it. But anyway.
But Jason, we talked about this a few times. I'll let you say it. This movie did feel a bit bloaty and at times and had non-plot. Why is that? What was the reason?
Yeah. I think I read this somewhere that this was supposed to be a 2-movie deal with David Gordon Green. Like they wrote 2 scripts and then they decided to expand the second script into 2 movies. So that's, I think, where you're getting a lot of that. You're getting a lot of we gotta fill a feature here and then tell the second half of this script in another movie. I definitely feel that. I mean, this movie is very, very low on plot. Most of what you do get, though, in the way of plot, is in flashback, and I like most of that stuff. I like a lot of the stuff with Will Patton's character as a young cop when they show. I don't know if this is a spoiler. It happens. You know, I'm like, I won't tell what happens, but there is obviously Michael Myers gets captured, right? Because in the 2018 movie, he's in the institution and then he escapes.
Well, so they said the Will Patton or that
right, yeah. They show
yeah.
You know what happened after the events of the first movie end later that night, right? And I kind of like that, and it looked pretty close to the way it was lit. It had the same sort of aesthetic. You get the Michael Myers from the 1978 movie again to kill again.
I was so glad he had the different mask.
Yeah, like, I mean, you have to. You got to make it look as authentic as possible, right? And it did. I know I like that stuff, but I assume that, you know, a lot of the rampage that is Halloween Kills is probably a lot of just extra stuff written to have this up the ante kind of sequel, right?
Which is wild because it's an hour and 45-minute movie. You didn't have to go all the way to an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. It's almost like the equivalent of, okay, well, we have to write all this new stuff, and then it just kind of got a little unwieldy.
It feels a little bit like a director's cut out of the gate. You know, it's like one of the first things I thought of last night was just like this. There's a couple of scenes that feel like would have been in 2018, but they decided not to do it. And then they had like, okay, well,
or they didn't realize they had to fill those holes for everybody,
right? And then, and it's like, it's like, well, this is a scene that feels like would be an outtake, or not an outtake, but like something that wouldn't get released to the theatrical version and would be part of the special unrated 4K.
Right. Well, it's kind of weird too, because we all watched David Gordon Green and Jason Blum on Joe Bob, Last Drive-In, and he said his ideal movie is 90 to 93 minutes. So for him to put out something that's 1 minute and 45 with more than was probably necessary feels like maybe he wanted to cut more. I know you said it feels like a director's cut, but it feels like David Gordon Green would have wanted it shorter in the first place based on what he just told us a week ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, I mean, it's just, I mean, and I will also say that there were, and maybe this is something that gets added because they had to fill it out. There's an awful lot of callbacks to the point where it's like, I get it. It's like, yeah, okay. it's like I don't understand the close-knit group of the people that returned from the first one. They don't quite fit right.
There's some good jokes in those though, like with Lonnie and
Lonnie
her
talking
dad.
talking about the
No, don't ruin that one. It's
right.
funny.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
Especially if you recently watched the 2018 one. But
I would recommend it. 100%.
So it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you want to. What I like about a lot of that stuff is you get to feel like this is the same town, right? And these are the same people, and they've lived their entire lives, right? And you never get that really with the other sequels. You don't even really get that from Halloween 2 because it's almost all new characters, right?
Right.
So I like that, this is a town that has been traumatized, that has been scarred by these events, and they've never really gotten over it, right? Now, is it a little goofy that they're all there at the bar? And
I would have never thought that Tommy and Lindsay is best friends with the nurse that didn't even really know who Dr. Loomis was.
Right.
It's like,
I mean, that's pretty
that's
goofy.
forcey.
It's very forcey. Though also, I think a lot of the themes, I don't need them beaten over my head, right?
Yeah.
I don't need characters to actually say the theme,
right?
Because that happens, and I'm like,
Yes.
wow, holy shit, that's
it is
right on the nose.
It is a little bit like looking down on your audience a little bit, and I don't know how many people really need that, but maybe there are fans of this franchise that do need to be. I don't know. I don't want to speak down to anyone either. For some reason, it feels like some of those lines were put in there maybe because of audience testing, and people were like, I don't know why this happened, or I don't know why this happened. Those on the nose moments are way too on the nose to just write. In my opinion, it's weird.
It is weird. There's some weird stuff in there.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and I think where the movie does start to unravel for me, and I don't want to get into spoilers, so I have to be really careful here. But the third act is a mess. Like it is it kind of turns into a Friday the 13th movie, and it kind of turns into a very specific beginning of a later Friday the 13th movie.
I know what you're talking about. While that honestly maybe had one of my more favorite scenes, because it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like it has it is the double-edged. That's my double-edged sword of, oh, that's a really cool moment to, oh no, let's not go back to this. Let's not do that. Yeah. Okay.
But and then I think it gets a little. Well, I think what it starts to do is I really hope that the third movie doesn't devolve into Jason Goes to Hell territory. I was going to say it because it has a real danger of doing so. And it also, I think, kind of re-cemented in the lore of Michael Myers movies the stuff that I really don't like about the sequels. The sort of the unstoppable monster aspect of it all, right?
I think there was no way you could make a trilogy without leaning into that, because you can't have. Well, I mean,
it's a conscious choice to do what they did.
But that means you have a bunch of stormtroopers running around trying to stop him for 3 movies if you don't make him a little elevated, is all I'm saying. Like, everyone shoots and misses all the time. Like, we would be complaining about that by the third movie.
Well, I think, well, sure. And I do think that there were times in the flashbacks where they do kind of set up that elevation.
Yeah.
I kind of saw it coming, so maybe I was okay with it. I figured it had to be that way.
Yeah.
Well, I've always just kind of felt like these, you're Jason and you're Michael Myers. Well, I always felt Michael Myers was a little bit more rooted in a reality, albeit a person completely devoid of any kind of good or reason, right?
Right.
But I never really imagined them to be a an actual monster. Let's just say that, right?
Right.
And that to me is I'm a little iffy on it.
Yeah.
We'll see what they do in the third movie. I'll be open-minded about the idea of it, but it got a little hairy for me there.
Sure.
My final thought on this is that the first movie is an actual decent movie. 2018, we'll say. I think it's a good movie. I enjoy it a lot. The second movie is a good popcorn movie, albeit a little brutal with some problems. The third movie, and we've been here before with like Matrix 2 teetering on the edge of destroying everything, and it really depends how they do the third.
Yeah, after the movie ended, the first thing I thought of was, this may be headed down the Matrix path.
Right, and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they can give us a satisfying conclusion that kind of makes the second one feel better. Now, I'm saying the second one, it's really the third in the series, right?
Right,
sure.
So maybe we'll feel better about that, or maybe we'll say Geoff was right. They ruined everything. You know what I'm exaggerating.
That's a pretty good comparison, though, because obviously, I mean, the first movie, the original 1978, is a perfect horror film. I mean, it's got the perfect ending. If they'd ever made any sequels, it's the perfect ending. Then they kind of replicated that ending to me, I felt, in 2018. I was like, oh, wow, perfect ending. If they never make another Halloween movie, perfect ending. And now, I mean, we have Halloween Kills, and I think it does sort of diminish the power of the 2018 movie, which is a shame.
Michael Myers standing on the stairs as everything burns at the end of 2018 is just glorious. Sorry, Jason.
It's great. And so in a way, it does diminish, I think, 2018. But at the same time, it's like, well, how many timelines are we in now? These Halloween movies. I mean, I am a complex, living, breathing creature with a brain. I can just isolate things and make them what I want them to make them. I don't have to think, oh, well, this movie doesn't mean as much to me now because there's a movie that comes after it, right? I could separate those things.
Right.
So
well, congratulations, you're not a typical internet person.
Right. So to me, it's like Halloween Kills is what it is. I hate that expression because it's kind of a meaningless expression, but it's a thing that exists. Take it for what you want. If you want, more Michael Myers killing people brutally, then it's going to be a fun time for you.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said about and this in no way says you were in the wrong situation, Geoff, but I feel like, Jason, you and I were in a great situation to watch this movie, right? We're sitting outside around fires, just, having a good time anyway.
Yeah.
And that's not to say you weren't in a good company or anything, Geoff. I don't mean...
Well, I was at an awesome drive-in on a cold October night. Like, what more could I ask for?
Yeah, I guess. But I think...
I was ready,
Yeah, I think the movie was made better for me by the interactions I was able to have while watching it. For me, personally. But,
I mean, I don't know. I mean, as... I don't know. Well, I mean, I think the one thing that is going to be true, if you didn't like 2018, doesn't matter how valid you think your reasons are, and now I'm talking to the general audience here, you're not going to like this.
I wonder about that, though. I don't really.
No, they've already made up their mind. They're not normal internet. You are better than a normal internet person.
But you said that You said that this one, Halloween Kills, feels like the exact opposite of 2018 in a lot of ways. So is it possible that it was a reaction to some of the criticism by the fans?
I sure hope not. I sure hope not, because most of that criticism I didn't think was super valid.
I didn't know. What was the criticism?
I don't even know. That's what I'm saying. It's like
all I ever heard was it sucks.
Right.
It's like, why?
Well,
what sucked about it? Was it too woke for you? Did it have strong female characters? You can't handle that? Like, what was it about it that people disliked?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, and that's the thing. That's why I say I didn't find the criticism to be all that super.
If I have another complaint about this, I don't love how Jamie Lee Curtis was sidelined for most of this movie. I mean, I guess it was realistic because of her injury, but that kind of bugged me.
Well, if this was one movie, it kind of would make sense for her to be sidelined for the first half of it.
Sure.
If we're taking it like as this was one story that is split in two, like it makes sense.
And to go back to what you were saying, Chuck, I don't know if they rearranged or reconfigured anything, because the trailers show her walking out of that hospital, not in the crowd scene where everybody's bum rushing, what they think is the killer. She's walking out like she's about to suit up and go back into action. Well,
yeah,
it doesn't happen here.
That
is one spoiler, but
there was some. I thought that whole
there's some reshoots or something.
I thought that whole last 10 minutes was really confusing. The way it was edited together.
It was.
I like, where were people in comparison to other people in space and time? It was real confusing, and
right, and especially with the stinger at the end,
you wouldn't expect that
isn't there people
to
still
happen.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
I watched intently that scene again the second time because that was another thing I was going to try to figure out.
It feels like maybe a time jump.
Yeah, it just has to. I mean, it's just something that had to happen for the story, I guess.
Yeah, it was pretty sloppy.
So anyway, but I mean, again, that could have been derailed by not a tight editing or reshoots. It's like, we just got to throw something in here now because now we got two movies instead of one. That makes me very, very worried for the next one, but we'll see. I'll keep an open mind. We'll see.
I think we're at the point where we might ruin it if we talk anymore.
Probably.
Wrap it up. Last thoughts. I know you have some, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jason. If you got any last thoughts,
I mean, I don't know. If I'm going to give it a grade,
how many pumpkins would you give it?
All right. Well, let's see.
Jack-o'-lanterns.
It's easier, I think, to do this as an actual grade, a letter grade. So if Halloween, the original, is an A+, I probably give 2018 an A-, and I would probably give Halloween Kills a B-. I could be talked into a C+.
Okay.
I'm B- talked into a B maybe, and the talking into's got to be done by the third film.
Fair enough.
The next one,
fair enough. Gosh, I mean, if we're saying that, I haven't even seen the second Rob Zombie movie, so I don't even know. I just don't even really consider those really Halloween movies. That's just a different take. It's kind of like when Stan Lee recreated the DC superheroes. Like, that's not Superman or Batman. It's just another version of an idea. If I were to say, Resurrections and F, 6 is a D-, 5 is a D+. This is a C-, I would say.
That's better than I thought you were going to give it, to be completely honest.
I mean, I feel as though I can separate out the stuff that I did find at least somewhat entertaining. And like I said, I knew what they were going for. I just felt like at times it was so heavy-handed that it kind of took me out of it to the point where it's like, let's go back to the real story here.
There are easily 5 to 10 things, some little, some big, that if you just tweak just a little bit or omitted, this is a much stronger movie.
I think there are whole characters you can omit. Which is probably not great, because a lot of them are the legacy characters. One in particular at the hospital was useless to me.
We'll have to talk about that a little more.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So obviously we have lots to say about it. Some of it's a disagreement, some of it's in agreement, but we'll table that for now. You can check out new episodes of Film Seizure, hosted by all three of us, each Wednesday morning. New episodes of Monster Mondays each Monday afternoon. Both of those things are at filmseizure.com. You guys know that, right? You guys know it's
I just learned that now. Actually.
Oh, awesome. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by finding us at Film Seizure. And you can find us on several podcast platforms like SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Audible. And you can also follow the show on YouTube if that's where you'd like to go to listen to shows. But be sure to tune in on Wednesday, October 27th, because we're going to talk about the other Halloween movie, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. That's our Film Seizure episode for the week of Halloween. Next weekend, I should have a review of the latest attempt to adapt Dune by director, is it Denis Villeneuve? Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah.
I would say Dennis Villeneuve.
Well, I know who Jacques Villeneuve is. I figure it's probably pretty close to that. But anyway, until then, don't forget to save me the aisle seat.